I call this public meeting of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meeting Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 550. Welcome to our first meeting in 2024, and thank you for all the outpourings of love here. This is wonderful to look out and see, as well as all of your faces out there, but it's lovely to see all the signage and everything as well. So welcome. We did have a couple individuals sign up to speak tonight. The first on the list is Lori Duke, speaking out about 763 resolution. If you want to please come to the microphone.
Washing the Cheeto off of her. Hi, my name is
Just
Laura.
one second real quick.
Oh,
So
okay.
you'll have 5 minutes. I'm sorry. I normally have some instructions. I don't have them up here to read, so I'm just going to kind of paraphrase from memory. But basically, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. There should be a timer on the thing. Our board secretary, Steve Newcomb, will also hold up minutes remaining if you need them. And then we also don't allow for any disparaging remarks to be made against a staff member or position by name. If you need to do that, we have a grievance policy that's outlined in board policy, and we'd be happy to point you in that direction if that's all right. So please feel free to start.
All right, it's only 2 minutes and 42 seconds. Okay. Good evening, I'm Laurie Duke. I'm a parent of 2 EMS ISD students, and I'm a former public school teacher. Voters, parents, and teachers asked for their concerns about behavior, mental health, social media use with students, bullying, suicidal ideation, fights on campus, and real solutions to concerns. That's what I hear from a lot of teacher friends and parents. And it's what I heard during the legislative session. Our Texas legislature failed to pass an education bill to fix any concerns. Instead, the text legs gave us Senate Bill 763, a bill that does nothing but requires school boards across the state to vote on whether or not chaplains should be used as counselors in our schools, knowing full well that chaplains do not, nor would they be required to meet the recommendations by our very own Texas Education Agency, such as pass the certification exam, have a master's degree, have 2 years of teaching experience, complete the state counselor prep program. Chaplains would not even have to have a basic understanding of child development. SB 763 puts bodies in positions, but without any credentials. My Christian faith and what I want to instill in my children is deeply personal. And among those who also identify as Christian, I don't share the exact interpretation. That is why I stand firm, not only as a parent, but as a former teacher, about the importance of separation of church and state. And even amongst my own faith, we disagree. What about those of other faiths or no faith? Chaplains in our schools absolutely violates freedom of or from religion in our U.S. and state constitutions. It also jeopardizes the care, safety of students who do not align. The legislature provided 0 new state funding to help y'all hire and bring EMS up from 63 counselors to TEA recommended 85. Social workers, 6 to recommended 85. Psychologists, 5 to recommended 42. Not only is SB 7063 not an adequate or appropriate solution, it's a slap in the face. Regardless of any category we as a society might try to lump kids in, do not allow less than our children than any child deserves. It's a no. Vote no, please. Thank you for your time, and if anybody needs references on where the data comes from, you can go to the Texas Education Agency, it's all there. And you can also go, you'll have to disaggregate it yourself, unless you have done an investigative report, but you can find it there. And also you can go to the ACLU and my apologies, what is it called? The Capitol texas.gov website, and you can look at all the legislative history. All right, thank you. Appreciate your vote for no.
Thank you, Ms. Cook.
And your work.
Next, we have Mr. Strouch. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It's a little bit hard to read. And I'll just read this because now I do have the paper in front of me. So it just says a few rules of order regarding public comment. According to board policy, each speaker has 5 minutes to speak. The speaker may also provide a written statement to the board to supplement his or her comments if desired. We'll have our board secretary keeping time tonight. He will hold up the time cards to show you how much is remaining. The board may respond with specific factual information, or existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries on a posted agenda item. Please note that to comply with FERPA laws on student privacy, you may not mention a student by name. Additionally, according to board policy, you may not make derogatory comments about any individual staff member, either by title or name. Should you need to file a complaint, you may do this through our formal grievance process outlined in board policy. Thank you, and please go ahead.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Liam Strouch, a lifelong resident and student of EMS ISD. I have been a straight A student and participant in multiple student organizations and as a competitor in both academic and athletic contests for this district. As a Wayside Middle School student, I was selected to participate in the naming and mascot selection for the new Eagle Mountain High School. This was an amazing opportunity as a young student to make a measurable impact on a school that will last decades into the future. The original draft attendance boundary included my home in the new high school zone. The draft moved the boundary approximately 50 yards behind my house, meaning that I am zoned for Boswell High School once again. This small distance has profound impacts on the remainder of my academic life in the school district. Effectively, I can now only attend the school I helped name with an approved transfer. However, there is a massive problem. Due to a district policy where a student who is granted a transfer to another school is prohibited from ever participating in athletic programs, students are potentially forced to decide if they are willing to sacrifice major portions of their adolescent experience. This policy is severe and dramatically more excessive than the state's UIL policy. The UIL policy only prohibits the participation in varsity athletics for 1 calendar year. My request of the board today is to consider a modification of local district policy FDB to be in line with the state of Texas UIL policy regarding the participation in school athletics, or a temporary reprieve granted to make sure the new high school is able to fill student programs of all types on day 1 of its opening year. Students should not be permanently barred from major portions of their high school experience if they have been granted an inter-campus transfer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the oral comments we had this evening. So we will move on to our finance reports. First, we have an audit update. Mr. Welch.
Good evening, trustees. Tonight we have several items to report to you from the district's finance department. First item is a presentation of the completed audit report and financial statements for the year ended August 31st, 2023. Following the presentation, an action item to approve the annual financial report prior to filing it with the Texas Education Agency is provided later on tonight's agenda. So providing details of the report is Mr. Carl Deaton with the district's external audit firm, Hankins, Istep, Deaton, Tunn, Say, and Scarborough. Mr. Deaton.
Thank you, Mr. Welch. Dr. Tadwell, members of the board, I believe you got an electronic copy of this report to look at prior to this meeting, but I did give you a printed copy that you should have there at your seat in order to be able to hit the highlights with you and answer any questions you might have. So again, these are the audited statements for the last fiscal year ending August 31. Always at the front of the report, you're going to find the independent auditor's report that basically says that in our opinion, these statements present fairly the financial position, the results of operations of the district for this last fiscal year based on the audit procedures we performed. So I want to begin on page 24. Page 24 shows the results of operations last year for the 4 largest funds of the district. 3 of these 4 funds you're required to adopt an annual budget for each year. And that left column on page 24 is the largest fund, the general fund. Basically, anything not required to be accounted for in another fund flows through the general fund. And you see, if you follow those revenues and expenditures down to the bottom of that column, you see a $1.6 million increase in the general fund balance last year from $71.5 million to $73.2 million. And if you divide that ending fund balance into the expenditures last year, you come up with a fund balance that's equivalent to 115 days worth of spending. And I would always stand up here and tell you that as a minimum, you need to make sure you have a minimum of 90 days worth of spending on hand for times of low cash flow, especially in the fall, or emergencies that come up, or whatever. So a small increase last year, 115 days at the end of the year. In the middle column there, page 24, is the debt service fund. Of course, it collects the INS portion of the property tax levy and pays the principal and interest payments on your bonded debt. You see a bottom line total fund balance of $16.9 million, which was a $4.1 million increase for the year. Of course, that fund balance can only be used for principal and interest payments as long as there are outstanding, as long as there's outstanding bonded debt. And I know that can be available for prepayments if that opportunity comes up to be able to save future interest. The capital projects fund, next to it, of course, you did not sell any bonds this last year, but with the successful bond election in November, there likely will be some sales this year that will show in this column. But basically, this column does account for bond proceeds and the spending of those bond proceeds. And so you came into last year with $372 million unspent from prior bond sales. You spent $203 million this last year. Ending fund balance there, or ending unspent bond proceeds of $181 million. On page 25 is the third fund that you're required to budget, the Child Nutrition Fund. And I'm sure you're aware the Child Nutrition Fund always has been very successful down here as far as generating a profit, and last year was no exception. While the bottom of this column shows a $100,000 loss for the year, that is after the program spent upwards of $2 million on serving line and other equipment this last year, and after $800,000 of indirect costs were transferred out to the general fund. So that fund really started with a $2.7 million fund balance. And that spending and those indirect cost transfers were necessary because, if you recall, last year, this fund was over the 3-month maximum fund balance that it is allowed to have. And the program had to submit a plan to the state as to how they were going to spend it down. And in fact, here at August 31, 2023, they're still over the 3-month threshold, but that plan gave them till last month, December, to reach that 3-month threshold based on what they submitted to the state a year ago. And I know Aaron told me he was on track to get the fund balance down by the date that it needed to be. But this fund is always just going to need to seek out needs in the program and spend money because it's a profitable program, and it's always going to push or be above that 3-month threshold, which is a good problem to have. And it just shows that it's apparently an excellently run program. All right, those are the 4 largest funds. There are many more funds that, as we go back through the report on page 29, is the employee child care program. And if you recall, this fund used to at times have to be subsidized by the general fund. What has helped this fund out the last 2 or 3 years is that federal revenue line, which is basically child care relief funds that are COVID-related funds that the program was able to receive. In fact, you see this last year, $390,000 of that still being received, generated a $317,000 profit. There's a very healthy reserve in this fund to basically use toward needs or to be able to keep the general fund from having to subsidize that program moving forward for a while. Page 32, just to point out that in the audit report, we are required to basically disclose the activity of the dollars for the student activity funds. You know, the district acts in a fiduciary role as far as handling all of the funds of the band, the choir, the cheerleaders, all the student group programs at the campuses. And you can tell there was over $1 million that the district handled on behalf of those groups, student groups this last year. These are not district dollars, these are student group dollars. And this page 32 will tell you you were holding $600,000 of their funds at the end of the year. All right, and then all the way toward the back of the report, page 82, is where you're going to find another 4+ pages of funds, the activity in those funds. These are basically what are called the special revenue funds, in that the minute these revenues come in the door, they're already earmarked for a particular purpose. And so a separate fund, a lot of them, a separate fund are required to be set up. Some of them you set them up yourselves just to be able to track the spending of them separately. But this is where you're going to find all the federal title programs, the federal special ed programs on page 83. Again, because of COVID, you can find all these ESSER funds. I'm sure you're well familiar with those, the ESSER 2, the ESSER 3, the ESSER supplemental, and the spending of those dollars this last year. There's still one of those funds, I believe, to still spend some money in this current fiscal year. Those continue on to page 84. The district on page 84, there's a fund for a COPS grant program, which was used to purchase security cameras for campuses in the district. And then as the ESSER funds go away and some of those columns go away in the report, we're probably going to start having more columns on page 85, because the state basically has gotten to where they have started giving a lot of earmarked sort of grants. And you see a couple of them on this page, the dyslexia grant, the school safety and security grant. There's also a state autism grant. There's a silent panic alert grant. There's a school safety standards grant. The state has gotten where they are giving more and more dollars for specific purposes, and you'll start seeing separate funds to account for the spending of those as the district gets them in the future. But that leads all the way up to page 86. That shows you that's an additional $16 million of funds that came into the district that was able to be used to help meet some of the educational needs of the district. All right, another good looking schedule in this report is page 88 and 89. I'll tell you, I didn't go back and look, but I don't ever remember Eagle Mountain having this high of a collection rate on their property taxes before. If you look at that last line on page 89, you levied $201 million of taxes this last year. All but $459,000 of that was paid by August 31st. That calculates to 99.77%. I usually see something like in the 98, 97, 98% range in most of my districts, but for some reason the taxpayers paid up timely this last year. And in fact, that 459 you see is even significantly less than the 727 in that left column that would have been in that same line last year. So this year is even, you can tell, is a good bit better than the previous year. Obviously, collecting a lot of these taxes, that has helped out both the general fund and the debt service fund balances that we looked at. Part of the increases there were because the property tax collections were really good. All right, beginning on page 93, there is about a 10-12 page section of the report that is the federal award section. Basically, because the district receives more than $750,000 of federal funds, we're required to select some of those federal programs and perform compliance work to make sure you complied with the various requirements for the spending of those funds. And there are 2 additional auditor's report letters in this section that basically say we didn't run across any problems in doing that compliance work. And it all leads up to page 101 and 102, which will detail for you that there was over $25 million spent in various federal programs this last year. Of course, the largest ones in this district being the special ed programs, the ESSER this last year, and the food service. Special ed and food service will always be large every year moving forward. And we basically rotate among some of these larger programs and doing our compliance work. The bottom of page 103 tells you that there are even some more federal funds you received in the district that are not considered federal awards, but basically reimbursements, and that's the SHARS revenue. There's 1 bond series you receive a federal interest subsidy on, and then federal fuel tax rebates that you're able to get. And then right above that is the disclosure in the report that you were able to pull over $2.8 million of indirect costs out of federal funds to help basically pay the general fund for their time and effort in accounting for all of this and making sure that all the compliance was followed. And again, about 800,000 of that came from food service. A lot of that came from ESSER and won't repeat itself this next year. A couple more things I want to point out, and then I'll see if you got any questions. In the middle of the report, there's about 40 pages of various disclosures, give more detail about various things. I want to point out on page 46, I think maybe I pointed this out to you last year, that last year we had to record what are called some right to use assets. Basically, if you, as a district, have committed to a long-term lease for the right to use something like copy machines or technology equipment, the theory is that there's a value there's value in the fact that you're able to use that over a number of years. And last year we had to start quantifying the value of those leases. This year we had to start quantifying the value of long-term technology subscriptions, where you've either paid for or committed to paying for over a number of years a subscription to a technology product. And so you'll see, if these had not been material, we wouldn't have had to fool with them. But in page 46, on page 46 in the capital assets, you normally think of capital assets as just being land, buildings, equipment. You see one that says right to use assets, and it's over $15 million worth. And so it turned out to be significant, but that is a new asset being tracked in the district. And corresponding on page 48, in the list of long-term debt, where you see all of the bonded debt listed, you'll see a line that says lease liabilities and subscription liabilities. So those are the commitments you've made to future payments that are giving you the right to use those products for the next few years. And those payments are basically quantified and shown as a debt. So to me, it's still odd that we have to record this sort of stuff, but we had to. And I am very thankful that the district did most of the dirty work for me in coming up with all these numbers and identifying what they are. There were dozens of subscriptions and leases that y'all have either made commitments on or already prepaid years in advance that went into these numbers. And I'm grateful to the business office for helping me out on all of that. All right, and last but not least, on page 17, I always feel like I need to point out this consolidated asset and liability statement on page 17. And in particular, I want to point it out because it is continuing to improve. for the district. That left column on page 17 is basically the combined assets and liabilities of all those funds we just looked at, as well as the capital assets and the long-term debt. But unfortunately, also includes the district's proportionate share of the unfunded TRS liabilities for retirement and health insurance. And while the bottom line in that left column is a negative $20 million, a year ago it was a negative $56 million. Excuse me. So y'all are trending the right way to get the bottom positive, even with there being $121 million of those TRS liabilities weighing down this statement. If we didn't have to include those TRS liabilities, that bottom line would already be a $100 million positive, which is very healthy. The TEA understands why that bottom line is negative. I don't think they like any more than we do that we have to record those TRS liabilities, but accounting standards require us to do it. And you'll see basically 6 lines on this statement that are labeled pension, OPEB, or TRS. You net all those out, and it's that $121 million. So overall, this is a very, I think, very healthy, good-looking financial statement. I know you adopted initially a deficit budget this year for the general fund. In fact, that is disclosed in the audit. Hopefully, the state will come through with some funding, and that won't come to fruition. But if it does, again, you're at 115 days worth of reserve. There's a little bit of a cushion in there. All right, if you got any questions, anything I said, I'd be happy to try to answer it.
I think so. Thank you.
For the, I mean, look, I'm not a finance guy, so I kind of looked at Steve and go, hey, Steve, you got any questions on this? Because it's not really my forte. But thank you. I mean, some of the explanation and things of the detail of all this stuff, because my eyes crossed a number of times as I look at things. I think as a parent in the district, as a taxpayer, I look at this and I'm grateful that for what you said about our business office being great to work with. I think that that's something from a community standpoint, from an organization standpoint, is, you know, to be applauded. And I think, as much has been said, this is a crazy transparent financial document and process, correct? I mean, this is laying it all out there. So the
And
transparency of our
public
finances.
information once you approve it.
Right. So I just, you're, according to this, being really transparent and financially responsible, it appears.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I would agree with that, Blake, and I know you're headed with that. So
I'm proud of that.
you got a clean report audited by an outside third party, you know, gives the checks and balances that we know now that they're approved by an auditor and that they've been approved by a third party. So that is very transparent. Thanks.
Anything else? All right.
All right,
Thank you very
thank
much. Mr. Welch, you've got a report on fund balance.
Yes, I do. There you go. So as we present the final audit each year, it's an ideal time to revisit our fund balance trends and potential impacts as we look into the near future. If you'll follow me onto page 115 of your board book, we do have a report of our fund balance history. And as a reminder, maintaining fund balance, the fund balance level, and Mr. Deaton referred to a little bit of this as well, it is important to the district's operation. And besides supporting the cash flow needs of the district throughout the year, as revenues do not come in at the same rate that our expenditures go out. The expenditures go out pretty evenly. Revenues come in from different sources throughout the year. And it's important that we have the fund balance to manage the cash flow throughout the year. It's also a buffer in a school finance system that we do not have any control over, nor can we fully anticipate all the variables that go into the state funding formula each year. So, and it's also necessary for those potential unforeseen events, whether it's storm weather damage or a change in enrollment projections. It helps us weather those unforeseen events. Another impact is the stronger a fund balance is, it can impact our credit ratings and potentially reduce our interest cost on our bonded debt. So with that in mind, let's take a quick look at the table. And if you'll look and follow the line for year 2023, listed there as the audit year, you can see the results of the audit report do have the district at 114.88 days, or as Mr. Eaton said, 115 days. With our current year budget and no changes to the basic allotment in the state funding formula from the legislative sessions, both this biennium and really any biennium since 2019, we anticipate to end the 2023-2024 fiscal year at just over that 90-day target, as you can see in this table. So with that, have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. If not.
That's considering zero change to the basic allotment, nothing, no extra funding in any, them calling another session.
That is correct. Yes, right now, that's building in the fact that we have not seen any changes since 2019 on the basic allotment. And current projection is that we're underfunded by that basic allotment by around $1,100 per student, which is almost 20% of the current allotment. And since 2019, we've seen a lot of inflation. The demands on our education system have not decreased in any way, and we continue to do what we have to meet the needs of our education community.
And then just a consideration of additional requirements and unfunded mandates. As mentioned earlier by our speaker, that the state has not come through. You iterated that as well. And as we look at this and you follow the deficit, this deficit is not anywhere close. It's so much more significant than the deficit we had in 2013. And considering that impact there, or even the deficit we had in 2016 with the opening of ILT. So we have really looked at that on the long term. You mentioned $1,100. We were saying $1,000 about 6 months ago. Well, there's inflation. It's continuing to spread. It's not going, that deficit, that differential is not going to decrease. It's only going to increase over time. And so we have to think about, if there's no special session to address this, what will that look like in spring 2025 during the general session? So there's obvious concerns. There's no discussion about this without vouchers being approved. And that's unfortunate that our budget's being held hostage by a policy that has not been, the bylaw that's not been approved, or a bill that's not been approved by the state multiple times. So that's the situation we're in right now. And so we have to be very careful moving forward, as you all know, and this is kind of the first step in the budget process. We'll continue to look at that in the upcoming months as we plan for the 24-25 budget.
I think instead of multiple times, you could say every time.
Yes.
Not approved every time.
Comments, questions? Okay, then let's talk about the budget amendment.
All right. All right, so we are providing a budget amendment on tonight's agenda to capture current adjustments to the 2023-2024 budget. If you'll follow me to page 117 in your packet, we have several amending adjustments to the 2023-2024 budget for the general fund. Summarizing the material adjustments on this page would include $103,030 and an increase to both revenues and expenditures for insurance claims related to a past flood claim. A revenue increase of $1.1 million for proceeds from an emergency connectivity fund, which is, you'll hear us refer to that as the ECF. That is a grant that we were able to receive and buy out leases on some student laptops. And so being able to take advantage of that was a great opportunity. And I appreciate the technology department and their team in working to get everything together and staying on top of those opportunities as they come about their world. An estimated reduction of $554,000 in federal revenue from the SHARS reimbursement program due to recent changes in the statewide program reimbursement ratio and eligibility of services. We anticipate that this change to be a reduction of about $1.5 million to our future budgets. But this year, we think we can mitigate that to only $554,000.
Was that a change in the formula, or what was the?
It was a reduction in the statewide ratio based on a audit of the state program by the Federal Oversight Funding Agency. And so they have initiated a change in the reimbursement ratio. It went from around 40% to about 20%. And so with that, we lost about half of the funding that we had budgeted for that program and have seen in past years. All of a sudden that has changed. And so yeah, it's something that hits statewide, and our cohorts around us, our other school districts and school districts across the state of Texas are dealing with a significant reduction in those funds.
And what's not clear at this time is that this was initiated by the federal government, but it didn't necessarily hit all states the same, because they're of course auditing each state independently. And so what we don't know at this point is if this is coming from our state not doing something correctly, which is something that has to be evaluated. And if so, that means the state made the mistake and we under Health and Human Services. And then that means that we're now responsible or liable for the effect of that. So that's going back to the conversation earlier, that would be something that I would hope, if that is indeed the case, that we found that the state has made that error, that the state would step up to gap fund, since this is mid-year effect and ongoing, at least some kind of bridge, and to be able to transition. Just a reminder, SHAR services, and I know many of y'all know this, but people listening may not, SHAR services go directly to reimburse services that are provided directly to children, RNs and things like that. Years ago, when people were getting rid of RNs and moving to LVNs, we went the opposite direction and were able to add RNs. And for those of you that were on the board, you may remember we were able to do that and offset the expense of that, the increase with SHARS funding, because LVNs, you can't reimburse on certain services, but you can with RNs. So we were able to increase services at no additional cost and to maintain that. And now this is affecting us going the other way. I'll be clear, there's no recommendation to go back on having highly competent, experienced people, licensed people to provide those services. So not implying that we would do anything differently. It just was a win-win for us. And so now we're having to really look at the impact of SHARS. But all of this goes direct, 100% of it's tied to student services. And that's something that's concerning, because we would have to bridge this for the foreseeable future.
So there was no change in the program per se?
No.
Just cut the funding?
Cut the funding, because what and honestly, there's a lot of, no one's come out completely 100% clear why, because there's an audit, and it's fairly, a couple months old now. But most likely when they audited, they saw that the state, the communication with us of what we reported, gave a different ratio of reimbursement. And so we didn't find that any districts did anything wrong. We were doing exactly what we're supposed to do, and in fact audited by the state for that purpose, but it was between the state and the feds. So we have asked for, I don't think you mentioned this, but we have asked for an extension so that we can report some information in if they have a different way we need to report it, then we want that opportunity to do so. So hopefully there'll be something, but I just wouldn't count on it. So we're going to continue to communicate that. And Jane, who's here, has been involved with that. Of course, we have a staff member that's involved with that as well. So it's very involved to get this reimbursement.
So we're not writing them a check, they're just cutting the reimbursement?
We provide the services, and then sometimes it's up to 12 to 18 months, right? We get the money in the next year.
I'm talking about the budget adjustment.
Oh, yes.
budget adjustment is just less
Less
reimbursement.
revenue coming in.
We're not-
So they're
Correct.
withholding money off of our cost reports. That'll up.
Jane, sorry.
Okay, got it.
So throughout the year, we're doing what they call interim billing. So as our providers provide the service to the children, they go in and turn in billing that goes into the state. And so we get some interim funding based on those billings. But at the end of the year, we have a cost report that we have to provide a lot of information, and it goes through and it calculates our total amount, reduces it by the amount that we received in interim billings, and then we receive that settle up in the following year. It used to be 2 or 3 years later, but they have for the last few years been giving it to us the next year. So it's that cost report settle up that the state is proposing to withhold from. So it's not anything that we have yet received and recorded as revenue, but it is budgeted because we didn't, anticipate not getting that full amount.
More great news.
All right.
Any other questions?
Okay.
So it's going to be higher as going forward, is what you said. So we'll just be increasing the budgeted items on the expense side and then not correspondingly offsetting it with.
Correct. Those items will remain in the budget on the expense side. And then we just won't have corresponding revenue in the future to help offset those costs.
Okay.
Because they will not be reimbursed at the same level.
Just to note, this amount fluctuates because it's by student service. So as students that higher need may come, then it directly affects, what's charged on the expenditure side.
So that's one of the material items that we did have on this budget amendment. One of the other item is that a decrease to state revenue number of $2.4 million to adjust for our updated end of year enrollment projection. So in all, the total adjustment is a net decrease to fund balance of $1,828,700, as you can see on the bottom right of this column. Also, there are no amendments or transfers for the child nutrition or debt service funds at this time. So then the second part of this amendment is the report on pages 119 to 122, where we capture all the prior amendment and transfer activity plus the proposed totals for this amendment, and to give you the total amended budget. So with that, again, be happy to answer any questions, and a reminder that this amendment is presented later in the agenda for action.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, that moves us on to operations reports. We have a construction update, Mr. Welch.
Good evening. Tonight we'll again look at Eagle Mountain High School. We have a couple of aerial views. We have one from the north looking to the south. We didn't do every angle this time, just kind of limited to 2 of them where we saw the most progress on the school site. This is looking to the west from the east, and you can pick up the athletic area where we've progressed there, and with the addition of the seating and work on the press box, all that stadium concessions.
Pretty cool to drive over that hill. I drive over it every day, and you drive right over and see that EMHS. Bear man, I've taken a picture while I was driving. I don't recommend using cell phone while you're driving, but I have.
Also, you may have noticed if you drive by, the construction trailers are now gone. So they're working on the discus and field events over in that area. And so they've moved temporarily into the building and working out of that, them being core. Some more close-ups. The one on the right is the main entrance. So they poured the patio And so that's starting to frame up there. Then where it's pink, that'll start getting the rock facade on that. The one in the top with the yellow, that's just the metal panels that the Sky Bridge and the lighting is being installed. And the bottom left is the large lecture hall, and it has little openings, kind of like the Hollenstein, where you can get natural light coming in, but you can see that they put the rock in there and they finished that interior look. So just, there's a lot of classrooms in this building, so we just kind of did a typical classroom, and you can see that the ceiling frames are in there. They've done the initial painting. You've got the overhead with the HVAC and the lighting. So again, that's moving along. You have a picture of the library with the work on the ceiling grid. And then on the far right, you have a kind of in a collaboration area in the library. That's a lower ceiling, and they're working on that also. Again, it's the time of the building where you just have a lot of overhead. So the far right one is the main corridor entrance. So they're doing the overhead work on that. You can see that some of the metal framing on the bottom part is in place. And as they move, they'll just keep completing that and put the ceiling tiles in once inspection's completed. And just some hallway work, again, overhead construction. The picture on the right is in a stairwell. That's the wall tile, so I think it has a good look going up the stairwell on that. And kids always touch that, so it's easy to clean. And then you have some millwork in the library. That's just one example of the millwork, but we thought you'd like to see that. You can see in the overhead, they've got the lighting in and a lot of the overhead. To the big picture on the right is cafeteria. Again, you see lighting, HVAC. Again, it's clean. You're starting to see more finished look in a lot of these areas. So, that tells you that the flooring's coming pretty close behind that. The picture on the left is the main Performing Arts Center, and it gives you a good view of the ceiling and then the wall. Some of the finishes in there, they're working on those and getting close to completing those. And a few more pictures here. On the top left, you've got one of the gymnasiums lockers, and then you have a picture of the foyer in the gym, and that's basically looking through into the gym. As this gets more completed, we'll have more pictures and coming on that one. But again, that was kind of like we started at A and now we're on Z. So they've just progressed. So it's not like this is behind. It's just that's how the trades move. And I think that may be all the pictures we have tonight for Eagle Mountain High School. If there's any questions on that.
You don't have Mr. Gatlin's office picture yet? Or?
He can go out there, but the heating may not be favorable for him at this point. He would definitely need a space here.
What's the seating capacity for the Performing Arts Center?
It is the same as Chisholm Trail High School, and I think that's right. I mean, I'm going off the top of my head, but it's a little under 1,000, I believe, 980.
I thought it was 1,030, but I may be off.
It's right in that area.
I think it's 1172.
1172.
Give or take.
Yeah.
What's I know last time you talked about the percentage of completion was like 82 or something. Is there?
Yeah, we're at 84. So we got basically 4 months left, 4% each month. So by the end of May, we'll be at, 100%, 99 point, whatever, something in that area.
And when's they anticipate the being able to get in, the CO being in May, I guess?
Not a CO.
Okay.
We'll have to, we'll start putting the furniture in, so you'll get a temporary where you can put furniture in and things like that.
But as far as, so it would be all or nothing though, like as far as being, it's something I've been asked, as far as being able to get in this summer, kids being able to go do workouts or rehearsals or things like that.
I think there's two different parts. Each building, like you've got the athletic area, you'll have a TCO probably happen there sooner.
Okay.
But, we got to get the road work in and things like that and get our inspections. But it all phases in. But next step is you get the furniture, then you get a temporary CO for staff.
Okay.
And then you can move to kids, then before you get a permanent CO.
Do you mind going back to the slide for the Performing Arts Center? I just wanted to point out that looks really narrow. It actually isn't. It's the same dimensions as Chisholm Trail. And Mr. Behringer's given me a the change. It's 1072. So I appreciate your checking on that. So again, it's very similar. The only main difference between it and Chisholm Trail is the entry, the egress is on the outside versus the interior. That's the main difference. Everything else is very, very similar.
Wayside will be, next month we'll start with Wayside, start giving updates on that and progress. We have an action item tonight to consider a company to build it for us. And then later on in the week, we're meeting with our architect and as we have been, but we'll continue doing that and keep progressing.
Any more questions? All right, thank you. Next, we have Education Services. Dana Barnes is going to come and speak to us on that, correct? TASB update first.
Thank you so much. I am here representing Kathleen Ecker, who unfortunately is not feeling very well right now. So again, good evening, and thank you for allowing me to be up here presenting to you. You did receive update 122. This was a very lengthy update, but that is quite normal when there is a legislative session. And this update was based off of the 88th legislative session. All the changes within this update is in your packet. And does anyone have any questions?
I just had one quick question. I know about the adding of the days, the 2 additional days for kids to have an excused absence to go to work with someone and get an idea on the job. Okay, is that in addition to the college visits that they have? So they would potentially have 4. Wasn't clear from the wording.
Thank you for asking me the question that I knew the answer to. So thank you.
Other questions? Okay. All right, then you also have a resolution for to employ or accept chaplains as volunteers.
Yes, ma'am. Senate Bill 763 requires each board to take a record vote no later than 6 months after the effective date of September 1st, 2023, on whether to adopt a policy authorizing a campus to employ or accept as a volunteer a chaplain to be employed as a school counselor or volunteer to fulfill the duties of a school counselor. After reviewing this bill from the past legislation, we believe that our current practice of allowing any person who meets the volunteer requirements to assist within our campuses. We will continue to hire certified school counselors to perform the assigned duties by the board. There are districts who, due to their size or location, have difficulty hiring certified counselors, but EMS ISD is not in this position. We are grateful for our certified counselors and all they provide for our students concerning academics, social supports, guidance, mentoring, and so forth. We are also extremely grateful for our many volunteers to help support our campuses and our students. We plan to bring the resolution to the board in February to continue our current practice of hiring individuals who hold the approved state certifications for counseling. We will also continue our practice of utilizing individuals, including our wonderful church partners, as volunteers if they meet the district requirements.
So to clarify, but not in a counseling role. I just want to, that's what you said, but I just want to reiterate it because I know we had a speaker tonight that was very worried about that. So we would not be hiring them as counselors.
We will continue our current practice of hiring an individual that meets all of the state requirements concerning certification and education for school counseling.
Dr. Barnes, would you read the portion of the resolution?
Read the yellow portion.
Do you have it right there?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
That sums it up pretty good.
Now therefore it be resolved that the Board of Trustees of Eagle Mountain Saginaw Independent School District hereby affirms the district's practice to continue to allow chaplains in schools in their current capacity as visitors or volunteers as outlined in policies and regulations, and declines to adopt a policy for chaplains to be employed as school counselors or volunteer to fulfill the duties of a school counselor.
Thank you. I think that helps clear it. And that's an action item later this evening.
No, February.
In February.
Yes,
February.
yes. That'll put us within the timeline. We have to take action before March 1st.
And this was Senate bill because some school districts couldn't find counselors?
Well, maybe, however, that would still be allowed through District of Innovation, so there were other venues, so I can't really,
We don't know why.
it would be speculation.
Another thing they didn't even know why.
But
Okay,
what was more odd about this is that even though we're not changing, or potentially not changing anything, of course, that's board action, it requires you to take action on something that says you're not going to take action
Yeah.
differently than you've taken action.
makes no sense.
Yes. So this is.
It has to
Totally
be,
irrational.
it has to be recorded, yes.
Okay. We
So
will
I
so
can only
record it.
speculate why that's the case. Now, one thing I want to point out, especially for people listening, is that there's been a lot of news on different districts as they review this policy. However, and you'll read the headline, but when you dig into the details of what people have done, very, very similar to what we're recommending to the board for consideration in February. Yet what is perceived on the onset is that you're either not allowing or requiring. It's something very different than what's actually in the text of the article or what the districts are doing. So I just point that out. So I don't see a lot of districts changing their current practice, which is really aligned with what we're talking about here, is volunteers being allowed to participate.
Any other questions? Okay. It is currently 5:56 on January 22nd, and this board will now recess for dinner and then reconvene in a closed meeting pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meeting Act. Section 551.071 for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney. Section 551.072 for the purpose of deliberating the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. Section 551.074 for the purpose of deliberating the appointment, employment, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee. Section 551.076 for the purpose of deliberating regarding the deployment or specific occasions for implementation of security personnel or devices or security audits, and Section 551.0821 to discuss specifically personal identifying information about a student.
Which is his absolute favorite. Next, we have our second grader, Andrew Isasadas. I tried. He is in second grade, and his parents are Melissa and Cruz Isasadas. I practiced all weekend. He is very interested in comic books and sports. Andrew loves baseball, is his favorite. Andrew plays on a team with older students, ages between 9 and 11 years old. He is hardworking and kind, and he always thinks of others before himself. I'd like to introduce Christian Skinner, a first grade Falcon. His parents Arthur and Cassidy Skinner. Christian likes playing sports, specifically football. He likes hanging out and spending time with friends and family. He is a hard worker, always making sure that he tries his very best. He is a loving big brother to his 2 little sisters, Aspen and Hayden. Christian can make friends with just about anyone. And last but not least, I would like to introduce our fabulous DBU administrative intern, Mrs. Tara Mancino.
Will you please join us in the pledges of the American and Texas flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now for the Texas pledge. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Please remain standing for a moment of time. Thank you, you may be seated.
All right. Next, we have some special recognitions. First, School Board Recognition Month, Ms. Overman.
Good evening, President Ring, the rest of the board, and Dr. Chadwell. Tonight we are here to celebrate you. Take a little bit of a moment. Every month in January, or every year in January, is designated as School Board Appreciation Month or Recognition Month, whichever one you want to pick, whichever one you like the best. Recognition, appreciation, we're happy to be able to provide that to you this month. As in all months, we want to thank you for the work that you do in the service to the students and the families and the staff here in EMS ISD. You'll see we have a great display here provided from our campuses, just tokens of appreciation for the work you do, as well as the posters that are around. I will tell you that you'll be lucky to get out of here with those crumble cookies, but we do hope that you enjoy that. So the theme for this year's celebration is locally elected and community connected, which we feel could not be more appropriate for the volunteer service that you provide. As part of this recognition in EMS ISD, each one of our schools adopts a board member, as you know, to whom they show appreciation throughout the year. And then in addition to special activities on campuses, board members are celebrated during the regular meeting in January with campus-made posters, cards, and trinkets of appreciation for your commitment to the students, employees, and community, and for the volunteer work that you do to provide world-class educators, personalized opportunities, and a family culture for all in EMS ISD. So the Communications and Marketing Department joins our schools, our departments, and our leadership in thanking you for your dedication, commitment, and service. And we have a short little video presentation that we would like to end with. Kurt?
Okay, class, let's continue working on our posters from yesterday. Jackie, well, wasn't your grandpa on the school board? Yeah, it was a while ago, but he did a lot of work for the district. What exactly does the school board do? Lots of stuff. People in the community would talk to him about things they'd like to see schools do. Then the board would have a ton of meetings to fulfill and see what they could do to make it happen. What kind of stuff? Like making sure we have enough classrooms, hiring superintendents, and making sure there's enough money to provide equipment for our extracurriculars, like for, say, this paintbrush and paint. Stuff like that. You guess he got paid big bucks for that. Nope, not a dime. It took lots of time, but he wanted to help the school district and the community. Oh my gosh. I guess we should thank them. Yeah, that's a good idea.
January is School Board Appreciation Month. EMS ISD board members are locally elected and community connected. So please take a moment to thank a board member today.
We'd like to thank our actors
Okay,
from
class,
Prairie
let's
Vista Middle School. We had 2 students that helped us with that video, so we want to thank them and we want to thank you.
Well, thank you all very much for that. It's just a wonderful experience to come here and see all the wonderful artwork and the creativity, as well as the lovely gifts, and it's just very humbling. So thank you. I know the rest of the board feels that way as well. Okay, enough about us. Let's move on to talking about Texas Association School Board by Board rebate check.
Trustees, if you don't mind, I'm going to introduce Mr. Don Olson with the Texas Association of School Boards by Board program. He has a presentation of a rebate check for us tonight. President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, if I can keep from dropping stuff. Board members, thank you so much for letting me be here tonight. I've been here the last 2 or 3 years to bring you a rebate check and talk to you about all the good things going on at your district. I'm sure you know more about it than I do, but from my side, I see the fiscal responsibility of this district. I see how this district runs, and believe me, I cover a lot of districts, and y'all are unique in a lot of the things that y'all do and the things that you do. This building in and of itself is a huge change from where I started coming to the old building and everything, and so we know good things are going on here, starting a new school and stuff, and we're proud to be here to help. The buy board itself, what it does is it just helps your purchasing department follow the rules and regulations and saves them time and you money. And along with that, we give a rebate back to all the entities that use it. This year, we gave back over $9.8 million to the different entities. And to keep it short, Eagle Mountain Saginaw has received this year a rebate of $39,568, which brings your 3-year total, I got to do this because this is good, 3-year total to $175,446, and your 5-year total to $334,252 that y'all have saved by using buy board and doing that. Y'all's finance team with Rob and Lucia, they're awesome, and all those others that help them, because I know there's a lot of them because I come up here and met a lot of them. So I appreciate y'all letting me be here. Appreciate all that you do. Retired superintendent myself, I know what that sitting up there is, and I watch what's going on, and I just thank you so much for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Okay, and now we have a substitute teacher of the month celebration, Dr. Kern.
Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, and members of the board. I do not have a check to present to you, but I have 3 very awesome substitutes that it is my privilege to introduce to you this evening. I'm excited to introduce these 3 outstanding substitute teachers who were awarded Substitute Teacher of the Month during the fall 2023 semester. Each month, the Human Resource Department asks our campuses to nominate a deserving substitute who exemplifies dependability, compassion, and has a strong moral compass. The committee carefully reviews the submissions and selects an individual that rises to the top. Tonight, we will get to meet these wonderful people who continue to carry the torch for our students. Ladies, when I call your name, if you will please join me at the podium. Tonight, we'll begin with our August/September substitute of the month, Patricia Wellington. And I don't believe I saw Patricia in the audience this evening. I believe she was unable to join us, but we do want to celebrate her. Mrs. Wellington has been a proud resident of our community for 41 years. What brought her family here is the same reason what EMS still stands for today, serving students in a manner that allows them to reach their goals of excellence. Mrs. Wellington is the mother of 3 successful Boswell alumni that are blooming where they're planted. After much thought, she decided that she wanted to help children use the learning tools that her own children had to accomplish their career goals in life. Her mother and father instilled in her to seek wisdom and knowledge in all things and to broaden her horizon. This she instilled in her own children as well. Mrs. Wellington has been a valued substitute in Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD for 17 years. She describes her experience as a substitute as nothing but amazing and says it's always a pleasure to serve. Next, I'd like to invite our October Substitute of the Month, Lauren Calderon, nominated by High Country Elementary. Mrs. Calderon was born and raised in the DFW area. She graduated with a business degree from SMU and worked in the finance industry. Mrs. Calderon comes from a family of educators and decided to serve in education as well, earning her alternative education degree. She taught in the Dallas and Fort Worth ISDs. She then stepped away from full-time teaching upon the arrival of her first child. Mrs. Calderon is happily married and has 4 amazing daughters, 2 that attend High Country Elementary and 2 that attend Highland Middle School. Mrs. Calderon reports that she loves working at High Country Elementary because the staff and administration are so welcoming and supportive. She also notes the students are kind and love learning. Additionally, Mrs. Calderon has the perk of seeing her 2 little ones throughout the day. Thank you so much for your service. At this time, I'd like to invite Angela Roseberry, our November Substitute Teacher of the Month, nominated by Saginaw High School. Mrs. Roseberry graduated from Langston University with a Bachelor's of Business Administration and began her career in accounting. She has committed much of her time for the past 30 years to her church, teaching the youth and young adults. Mrs. Roseberry was a stay-at-home mother for 12 years, taking care of her 5 beautiful children. Once they grew and entered high school, her desire to return to the workforce increased. She was approached by a High Country Elementary administrator who encouraged her to pursue substituting for the district. Her response was, maybe one day. In 2020, Mrs. Roseberry's family experienced a traumatic health crisis. Once her children's school and surrounding community found out, they were quick to action. The Roseberry family received the support they needed to move forward and thrive. Mrs. Roseberry they are grateful to EMS ISD for the care and love they received during the time of need. Mrs. Roseberry has a daughter at High Country Elementary and a son at Highland Middle School and 3 sons at Saginaw High School. She says she's grateful and ecstatic to have the opportunity to be a long-term sub at Saginaw High School. She knows that she is right where she's supposed to be. Thank you, Mrs. Roseberry. Thank you all. I look forward to returning in the summer with our Spring 2024 Substitute of the Month.
Wonderful, thank you. And congratulations to all of our substitute awardees this evening. Next, we have some special introductions. First from the Education Services Department, Ms. Sanders.
President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, and Board of Trustees, I'm very pleased to introduce you this evening to our new secondary English Language Arts Coordinator, Kathy Wall. Kathy, if you'll join me up here. Kathy is, we got her from Castleberry. She was there as their secondary language arts coordinator, and we were very lucky to have gotten her start here with us in January. She was there since 2021 as the secondary language arts coordinator. Kathy has taught reading language arts in elementary, middle, and high school, and she's also been an instructional coach, which brings a great perspective to the work that she's going to do as our secondary language arts coordinator. She has said that she's just passionate about helping students become proficient readers and writers and thinkers and effective communicators who are equipped for success in school, life, and work. Her goals and what she represents are very much aligned to our mission and our goals as a district, and we're happy to have her.
Okay, and we have a couple from the athletic department as well. Mr. Abington.
President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, Board of Trustees, EMS ISD Athletics just got better. Thank you, Coach Barker, for letting me do this, but we're not only introducing one head coach, we're introducing 2. Rickland Holmes is the new head football coach and athletic coordinator at Chisholm Trail High School. This is his wife Vanessa, an AP at Chisholm Trail as well. Aaron, who is in the administrative building at Crowley ISD. And Kairos, who's the athletic trainer at Terrell. So thank y'all for being here. Coach Holmes and I crossed paths back in 1997 when he was a senior at Tyler John Tyler, and I was my first year coaching the state semifinals at Cowboy Stadium. We won't talk about who won, but I have a state ring from that. He went on to Oklahoma State, where he had an incredible career, where he played defensive back and did a lot of amazing things, was drafted in the NFL and played for the New England Patriots amongst some other teams. And at that moment, he had a chance to go to another team. He said, I want to start coaching. And so he did. And so he took over at Tyler John Tyler for 17 years and had an incredible career there, and then spent a year at Ennis. And we're lucky to have Coach Rickland Holmes join us, and he's already made an impact at Chisholm Trail High School. So I'd like to present everybody Coach Rickland Holmes. I apologize, but y'all have to listen to me twice. At Eagle Mountain High School, Dr. Gatlin now has 3 people to talk to. We now have a new head football coach and athletic coordinator. Mr. Jeremy Mullins has joined us. He's coming back, a reunion to EMS ISD. His wife, Mandy, is an educator, and 2 of their kids. We have Jaden, who's an 8th grader, and Keegan, who's a 5th grader. And Jeremy comes to us out of the Fighting Merkel Badgers, where he graduated, and he was tough enough to play and stay 4 years at Eastern New Mexico and played football, where he started coaching and got to coach with his dad. And did your granddad coach with you too? And so he got to coach his brother and stayed up, and then joined us and was at Boswell High School for 4 years, where he was an incredible assistant, did a lot of amazing things, overcame his head coach at Boswell. He still did good. Where in 2000, Coach Dobbs, you don't need to say anything. In 2017, he was named the head football coach for the Toller Rattlers, where he has amassed some of the greatest records that they've ever seen. In fact, the winningest head coach that they've had, where this year they played in the state semifinal game at Jerry World just this year. And so we are very proud to announce.
Hang on, state final.
State, what did I say?
You said semifinal.
He played in the state semifinals and the final. Actually,
take that one away from him.
But thank you very much. I am very proud to introduce Mr. Jeremy Mullins for Eagle Mountain High School.
Well, welcome to our 2 new coaches, and that does conclude our opening ceremonies and our special recognitions and introductions. So if you were only here for that part, now's a good time to sneak out while we get ready to move on to action items, but you're welcome to stay.
Yep.
We'll take care of everybody. Very nice. Very nice.
All right, guys, thank you so much.
Can we go check in or not?
No.
Good check.
I didn't bring in more
Are gonna
chairs.
behave.
I'm letting Holly.
Hey, we did finish all of our reports in the 5 o'clock session, so we're going to move right into action items. And our first action item is to approve a class size waiver. And Dr. Barnes, you were going to walk us through?
Thank you again for allowing me the opportunity to present in place of Ms. Eckert. Each elementary campus, including the Halfley Development Center, submits a weekly grade level enrollment report. After careful review of the campus grade level enrollment reports and the PEIMS coordinator's weekly enrollment report for grades pre-kindergarten through 4th grade, The district currently has 4 campuses exceeding the 22-to-1 state mandated class size ratio. The district would like to request a waiver from the TEA to exceed the 22-to-1 mandated ratio requirement for the following campus grade levels. That would be Bryson Elementary, kindergarten, and a 3rd grade, Comanche Springs, 3rd grade, Remington Point, 4th grade, and Willow Creek, 1st grade.
Have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion to approve the submission of the kindergarten through 4th grade class size waivers as presented.
Second.
Motion by Tim and a second by Ron. Is there any discussion?
I just have a question about the bilingual. It looks like those programs are continuing to grow, right? There's 26 4th graders at Remington Point and 26 4th graders at Willow Creek. So if those continue, are we going to have extra help for them, or how are we going to handle that?
Dr. Jones, bilingual program is growing, and so if we continue to grow, will we be able to provide additional help for those classes?
That will be determined on how many FTEs we have, because bilinguals are paid from local funds. We can pay for stipends from our allotment for bilingual ESL, but as far as that goes, it would be an FTE that the district would have to provide. And we are monitoring the numbers.
Yes, I know you are. I just, they seem to be climbing, so.
Right.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next action item is to set the board meeting dates for the 24-25 school year.
Yes, this is on page 211 of your packet. You'll note that this is very similar to previous years. The biggest distinction is that there's actually a 5th Monday in March. That's when we have spring break. Our spring break is a week later, it will feel a week later this next year, and therefore we pushed that date back. The rest are very similar to previous. Some of the weeks have fallen differently, which is feels like it's pushed later in the month, but it's just how the calendar falls. But if there's any questions on that, I think this is reflective of what we've been doing. So I'm happy to take any input, or we can move forward for consideration.
I move we approve the 24-25 board meeting dates as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Steve and a second by Marilyn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. Our next action item is to adopt an order to call the 2024 school trustee general election. Mr. Welch.
Thank you, President Ring. Trustees, once again tonight we have another item for action. This is the order of election for the trustee general election set for Saturday, May 4th, 2024. On this election, we have places 1 and 2 up for election. They are currently held by Marilyn Tolbert and Paige Ring, respectfully, and both incumbents have filed for re-election at this point. So with that, we do provide you the order of elections for approval.
I make a motion that the board adopt the order of election for the trustee general election on Saturday, May 4th, 2024.
Second.
Motion by Tim and a second by Steve. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. Next, we have a public hearing. On that, this is for.
That's true.
Huh?
Financial audit report. Do you not see that?
That's true.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah.
a
I flipped my page, sorry.
It's a federal meeting.
Yeah,
Yep, it's a public meeting for the, yep, and
Excuse
Mr.
me.
Welch will be there.
Had my paper flipped.
Yep, this is what we're on. So just, here we go, let me make sure
Sorry
I
for
got
the
the right
confusion.
one.
Yeah.
All right, so at this time, on behalf of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, I declare an open meeting to discuss the district's ESSER use of funds and return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. Your report for us?
All right, thank you. Good evening again. Tonight we are conducting the public meeting as part of the administration of the ESSER related grants. originating from different congressional acts, the ESSER 3, ESSER 2, and ESSER SUP or supplemental grants have similar but different intents and purposes surrounding the COVID-19 pandemic. These grants also have similar allowable uses, including addressing student learning loss, retaining employees, and operational needs. When we look at the grants, the details for the ESSER 3 entitlement, we had $13.2 million, and the district has spent $9.4 million leading into this current year, with $3.8 million budgeted in this 2023-2024 fiscal year. We move to ESSER 2. The entitlement is $5.9 million, and the district has spent the entire allotment by the end of the 2022-2023 fiscal year as required by the grant. And then finally, we have program details for the ESSER supplemental grant. The district has a $4.7 million entitlement, and the district has spent the entire allocation by the end of the 2022-2023 fiscal year as required by the grant. The district has utilized the funding for a range of activities and has a proposed use of funds document posted on the district's website. And then in addition to the ESSER use of funds plan, the district developed and provided a return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan, more commonly referred to as the RIPICS plan. And it was prepared for the 2020-2021 school year, and the plan remains available on the district's website as well. A few details on that. So in summary, we do have the public meeting tonight, and we continue to invite public comments from stakeholders through both this forum or anytime through the Let's Talk link on the district's website. And then just several additional comments. The grants have provided significant support for addressing student and staff needs, and strategically utilizing them in the most effective way has been necessary, as well as care and strategy is necessary in operating as the remaining funds expire in the current fiscal year. So this concludes the presentation of the ESSER use of funds and RIPICS plans. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to address those. Otherwise, I'll turn it back over for the remaining portion of the public meeting.
Any questions from the board? Okay, then at this time, we will proceed with the public comment portion of the open meeting. Are there any requests from the audience to speak on this agenda item? Seeing none, with the conclusion of the public comments and no further presentation, I declare that the public meeting to discuss the district's ESSER use of funds plan and return to in-person instruction and continuity of service plan is closed. We will now move on to our next agenda item. And that's you again, Rob. We have a act on budget amendment.
Trustees, we provided a copy of the January budget amendment for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Presented that in the reports section of tonight's agenda. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to entertain those at this point.
I move we approve the budget amendment as submitted.
Second.
Motion by Steve and a second by Marilyn. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. And that brings us to approving the 2022-2023 financial audit report. Mr. Welch again.
I move we approve the 2022-2023 financial audit report.
Second.
Which I will point out after the second that well, I'll let you tell us how the audit went. Mr. Welch.
Just a little recap from the report section earlier in the agenda, the 5 o'clock session. Our auditor, Mr. Carl Deaton, our external auditor, who does about their company does about 43 different school district audits in the state, and they were very pleased to provide us with a clean audit, as well as in reviewing all of our internal controls and make sure that the financial statements are presented fairly and transparently. And then as well as we were able to end the year with a positive adjustment to our fund balance and holding us at about 115 days fund balance, which is a good number for the district right now. So with that, yes, we had a very successful audit from as presented by Mr. Deaton.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's good to know that a third party has looked at your work and our work for the year and found it to be very transparent. And as you say, got a clean report, which means they found no findings. So congratulations to your department on that and to yourself.
Thank you on behalf of the department. We have a great team that puts in a lot of work to make sure that the audit and the financial statements are completed, and we dealt with a few new things, as Mr. Deaton talked about. We continue to see new accounting requirements added in, and we provided those, and they were, like I said, Mr. Deaton's look at that, he was very impressed by the work of the department, and from Mr. Doug Kittinger and Ms. Jane Valdez, both of those individuals did a tremendous job in working on the audit, and so we appreciate their work and working closely with the auditor to bring audited financial statements to the board and present those to the public.
Yeah, I'd like to say that compliments to, again, to your team. It's cool to hear the things that he had to say about the report and the financial picture. And then I think it's very important that we were great to work with, that he said that your team did a lot of the dirty work and kind of gave him a head start. So I thought that was great. Yeah.
All right, we had a motion by Steve and a second by Blake. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? And there are none. Motion carries 7-0. That brings us to conducting a public hearing for the Texas Academic Performance Report. Dr. Jones, if you want to make your way up, I will read the specific language. At this time, on behalf of the Eagle Mountain Saginaw ISD, I declare an open hearing on the Texas Academic Performance Report in compliance with Texas Administrative Code Title 19, Chapter 61, Subchapter BB, Commissioner's Rules on Reporting Requirements, Section 61.1022C. Texas Academic Performance Report.
Good evening, President Ring, Dr. Chadwell, and board members. I will be presenting information on the Texas Academic Performance Report as well as the Texas Progress Reporting System. And both of these programs together provide us a wide range of information on student performance for the schools as well as the school districts. It talks about disaggregated information for the student groups, extensive information on students and staff programs, as well as demographics. The TAPER report can be accessed in the following ways. It is on our district website. It is also on the campus websites. We will have copies available in our libraries and offices. And then you can go to the TEA website to get the TAPER and TPRS reports. Currently, the TAPER report does not include scale scores, A through F ratings, nor distinctions, or special ed determination status. The issuance of the A through F ratings under 2223 rule is pending and subject to change depending on the litigation that is going forward here in February. So we shall see. The performance section of TAPER shows the performance by grade level, by content and student groups, and all of the STAR tested grades. It shows our academic progress. It shows our progress for our students who are non-English speaking or language proficient. And then it includes our participation rates, our graduation rates, our attendance rates, and our dropout rates. It also includes CCMR indicators on college readiness, on our endorsement programs, on our career and military ready graduates. And these are some of the indicators, our national testing, how the students score on it, as well as the average score. I'll do credit our students who graduate and go to our four-year colleges, It includes information on when the students enroll, the ethnic distribution, economically disadvantaged, and many other categories, as well as retention rate and class size rates. Those are all included in the TAPER report for the individual schools as well as for the district. And then this is all of the information that is included for the staff. It talks about professional as well as our aides, as well as our auxiliary staff. It shows the years that they have taught, years that teachers have taught, but experience, as well as the number of students and the class sizes, experience of the teachers, their salary, lots of information, once again, at the campus level and at the district level. It includes program information for students and teachers for bilingual ESL, the CATE program, GT, and special education. It also will have a link, the TAPER reports have a link to our district financial standards reports. And then our data, once again, remember, we are not going to be given or are not given a rating right now at this point in time. This slide, you see, these are our third. Okay, thank you. Third, fourth, and fifth grade reading scores. And as you can see, our students are performing right at the state and region level where our students are, that we are compared to. That was the approaches. This is the meets level. And if you know, when we do our closing the gap and we look at that, that's the federal accountability part of our state system, and it only looks at the meets level and above. And so this is how our students perform at that level. And we're, in some areas we're right there, and others we're just about 2% or a little bit more below. And then at the master's level, as you can see, in comparison to the region and the state, we're a little bit below there for our reading levels. Third through fifth grade math level, as you can see, compared to the region and the state, we're very close. We're a couple of percentages difference there. This is our meets level, and we're anywhere from a couple of percent to a little bit more below the state level there. Actually, not the state, the region, and above the state. And then this is the master's level. Once again, we still have a little work to do there to be at the same level as the state and the regional service center. And then this is our fifth grade science. We are kind of right there, real close, just a few points below the state and the regional service center. Fifth grade meets, once again, we're a little bit below the state and the regional area. And the same thing for our master's level in fifth grade science. Sixth through eighth grade RLA, as you can see, our approaches and above, we are a little bit above the state and each grade level as the students are at the middle school. Our performance you see grows each time all the way through the eighth grade. This is our meets level, and once again, we are right there growing as we get to the eighth grade. We once again are quite a bit above where the state and the regional area schools are. And the master's level is the same thing. We start below. We grow some in seventh grade, and then in the eighth grade, once again, you see that our students are at the master's level there at the middle school level. Our sixth through eighth math, and if you will remember, when we're looking at our seventh grade math, our seventh grade students who are in our advanced class take eighth grade STAR tests. So we take our top students away. So seventh grade doesn't have top performers. 6 and 8 do, but not seventh grade, okay? And so our scores are below, but if you look at it from last year to this year, we have made significant growth there, okay? So that was an area that our district had a focus in, and we are seeing the growth that we need to. So hopefully next year we will be much closer to the state and region in that area. This is the meets level. We are, once again, below in sixth. Remember, seventh is a little different, unique grade. And then eighth grade, we're above the state. And for masters, it's the same thing. We're below in sixth and seventh. And then at the eighth grade level, we are above the state and the region. 8th grade science, we're right there all together. We're real close here at the meets grade level. And then at the master's, we're a little bit below. And then 8th grade social studies, our score is right there with the state. Once again, it's very close at the meets level. And then at the master's level, we're a couple of 1% to 2% below. EOC at the high school, our approaches level, our high schools are doing a great job. We increased there and we're above the state and a region. In the meets level, we're above the state and the region. And then we're right there with the state, with the region and above the state for our master's level. English 2, once again, we're above the state level in the performance there. At the meets level, we're above the state. And at the master's level, we're right there 1% below. Algebra, once again, approaches and above, we are at 82%, which is above the state and the region. For meets, we are above the state and the region. And then masters, we're 1% below there. For biology, once again, our score is above the state and the region. Also for the meets, it's above the state and the region. And for masters, we're right there above the state, right real close to the region. U.S. history, we scored where everyone else did for that 94%. For meets, we are above the state and the region. And then we're a little bit below the region, but right there at the state level for the master's level for social studies or U.S. history. Our attendance rate, we are above the state level. We're a tad bit below the region. For our dropout rate, we want to be the lowest there because a low number is good. And we are below the region and the state for middle school. And we are also there for our high school level. So our students are completing and they are not dropping out at the same rate at the state and as they are at the region. Graduation is done on 4, 5, and 6 years. Our rate at the 4-year level is much higher than the state and the region. It is still higher at 5 years when we look at those cohort graduates. And then at 6 years, we are above the state and the region there. CCMR, our college, career, and military ready, you can see that we are below the region and we are below the state there, okay? That is an area of focus for our district. We have been working really, really hard there, and we have goals in place to try to get us to where we need to be. You need to know that this is not this year's data. It wasn't 22, 23. This is 21, 22's data. Next year, it's going to be this past year's data. And as we're going through this, you need to realize that the state changed the focus point to 88%. And our students had already completed all of the work. There was nothing we can do to improve anything because the data's done, okay, from that standpoint. ACT, SAT, this is for our accelerated learners. These are students who took algebra in the 8th grade. They are now required to take SAT or ACT math, and the state has cut scores for that as to what is approaches, meets, and masters. At the approaches level, we are above the state. At the meets level, we're right there with the state, below the region. And at the master's level, we're below both of them. Ethnic distribution, you can kind of see where it is. 2 or more races, we're higher than the state. Asian, we're higher than the state. White, we're higher than the state, and African American. As far as student demographics, you can see military connected, we're above the state. You know, we have the Joint Reserve Base right in our backyard. And then our 504 students, we are a little bit above the state level there. Special ed, we're a little bit above the state level there. And then our teacher ethnic distribution, you can see where we are on that. And then teachers by the years of experience, and what this chart tells us is where we are significantly above the state is our beginning teachers. We are much higher in that area right now. And then the next slide will talk to you about violent and criminal incidents. We have to report this. This comes to us from TEA, but this shows you, this is an actual number of incidents that were reported. And this runs behind also. And you can see that fighting was our controlled substance and fighting were our two highest areas of violent and criminal incidents. And then the Texas Coordinating Board, also, we are required to show you our students who have completed 1 year in public colleges after they graduate. And remember, these are Texas public colleges. This does not include private schools. This does not include students going out of state, nor does it include students who go to a 2-year college like TCC, okay? And then our financial reports, once again, will be linked from our TAPA reports to the TEA website. Our goals that we're required to report by House Bill 3, we have 3. We have the one of childhood literacy aligned to our 3rd grade stars, math aligned to our 3rd grade star, and then CCMR aligned to graduates that meet readiness requirements. For our literacy, we went 1% below, but you need to remember that our STAR test in ELAR was a different kind of test. So, and it included writing, where 3rd graders, one, it's their first year to take the test, and they've never had to write before. So students are learning, we're learning what the writing requirement is also for the STAR. And so anyway, hopefully we'll make a much larger gain next year. Because we do have things in place that we're working on right now to meet those standards. In math, you can see we made a 4% growth from last year, so we're right on target to keep on improving there with our students in 3rd grade and in the math program. And then CCMR, 55.7%. As I said, these are our 21-22 graduates. And once again, our goal now will be to reach 88%. But once again, there's nothing we can do to improve that score. It's whatever our students did last year from 22-23. Results-driven accountability. This is another part where we are accountable in 3 different programs. Bilingual ESL, we look at academic achievement, post-secondary readiness, and then the disproportionate analysis. And this looks at STAR in all the areas. It looks at TELPA standards, it looks at graduation rate, and it looks at the dropout rate. And we met all of the state standards in all of the areas for the ESL bilingual. The second area is special populations. That includes any of our students classified as foster care, homeless, or military. Once again, this looks at STAR rates, graduation rates, and dropout rates. And we met all of the standards in all of the areas for this group in results-driven accountability. And then the last area is special education. We look at STAR, graduation, and dropout. We look at the students that are in the early childhood program. We look at the percentage of time that is spent in regular classrooms versus the time that's spent in special education classrooms. We look at disciplinary removal rates, and we have met the required standard in all of these areas this year. Questions, comments?
I have some questions. So I know that it's a new STAR test, so I know that that was something that we are trying to figure out as well as everybody else. But I am concerned about the elementary classes, math, science, reading, science, all being, the state is, I mean, I don't worry about the state too much, but I do worry about the region. And I would think that we would be, based on the curriculum and the things that we've been doing over the last few years, that those, I would have expected those numbers to be at least the same as the region, certainly not below. So I'm just wondering what we need to be doing, or what are we doing to address those? I mean, the math numbers, Dr. Barnes, I can't see you, but what are we doing and what are we proposing to continue to make some improvements, because these are very disappointing.
Well, from the STAR perspective, I've always been transparent. The STAR is a lagging indicator. So we have taken a look at the whole picture of all of our data collecting. So what we have done is we put several key actions into place. One of those being that we have district level support teams that go to the campuses that are able to do the M-Class and be able to do the intervention testing. So we're finding more equity across the board concerning that now the scores are being more transparent, more of a truthful look, more of a valid. Also, what we have put together are called ICE meetings, and basically this is a collaborative opportunity. Instead of pulling principals off their campuses and coming to us, instead we have changed our complete practice, and we are going to the campuses, and whoever attends those meetings, it's based on the individual needs assessment of that campus. So at one elementary school, you may have the math coordinator there, you may have the bilingual coordinator there, you may have Dr. Jones, myself, or whomever. And that we know is already making a difference because it's bringing the data to the forefront with the principals and being able to ask the questions and immediate actions of what they're going to take place. Since we just received our TAPER report, we did not want to wait on the state. We were, I hate to say, grateful for the lawsuit against the state concerning the STAR exam and so forth. But we were going to go ahead and hit it, full force. And so this summer, we spent quite a bit of time in a very intentional way of looking at the data, but again, not just this one piece, but the overarching aspects. We put together a needs assessment for each campus. The campuses brought their leadership teams together, and based off of that, again, the district support teams are going to those campuses, and we're being able to have those one-on-one conversations. And if there is an area of concern, we immediately bring in more supports to the campus. But again, what we have found is every time we go to a campus, not only do we look at their data, we look at the analysis, but we immediately go, we walk the hallways, we thank teachers, we see the teachers, we ask if they have questions about the curriculum, if there are areas that they're struggling with. Again, we are immediately providing those supports. So we're not having to wait till the end of each month to determine where we are.
Okay. And of course, we all know that the STAR test is those numbers are only as good as how those children felt on that one day. So yeah. I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket, as you know, but the numbers are still there. And so it's just something that we need to, in a relative, yeah.
Well, and that's where I appreciate that, Dr. Tolbert. We also know too that there is a trend. If we have the students more than 2 years, we've got them. Our mobility rate is affecting our elementaries. I believe that is why we are seeing success at our secondaries, because once we do tend to get them at the secondaries, they tend to stay. Our data is also showing if they attend our pre-K program, they are very successful once they hit that 3rd grade mark. But yes, we are struggling with our students that are coming into us that have not been exposed to schooling. So once again, thank you for allowing us the additional FTE to be able to provide supports for our K1 and 2, or our pre-K and K. And so again, very intentional supports are being provided. And also too, I do want to greatly appreciate Ms. DeHoyas, even though her title is Director of Pre-K, we've expanded her because of her knowledge base of, we're now looking at early childhood as a whole and not just pre-K. And we do believe because of those intentional actions, we will see results on the 2024 exams.
I just wanted, I already knew all this. I just wanted the board to I've already talked to Dana and Dr. Jones about it because I was concerned when I saw them, but I wanted you guys to kind of know we're looking at it and making sure that we're making strides. It has nothing, that the teachers are being supported and that they're being provided what they need, and they're not just, I know they're not just thrown out to the wolves, but really giving concerted efforts to help those kids.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Jones, the only thing that I've found more confusing than school finance is the school accountability system that you just went through. So I appreciate you. I'm a numbers guy, but I appreciate you keeping up with all those different measures and things that our school district is accountable for. And Dr. Barnes, thank you for coming up with plans to address any shortages or issues that you found. But
Well, I can assure you, it was definitely all of us coming together. This was not a, here's your plan, this is what you're going to do. It is, let's bring everybody to the table, let's look at our outcomes, let's look at the data, and from there, what are the intentional actions that we need to do? And we're holding each other accountable throughout this school year. So again, I'm very excited. Our teachers are absolutely amazing. They've given us the opportunity to provide them more support. Again, I cannot thank you enough. Interventionists and academic coaches make a difference. And then also too, I truly want to again thank you because we have put actions into place of if students are struggling behaviorally in a classroom, we are providing them the supports that they need to where it does not interrupt the classroom learning environment.
Well, we appreciate all you're doing, and that's what makes this district a culture of excellence. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a CCMR question. Do we normally lag this far behind a region? I know it's 2 years behind, but still, is this, I don't remember the numbers from the past years, but I mean, this is way behind. Is this a normal thing for us?
Well, the requirement used to be 60% from the state. And so as the state, in their infamous wisdom, decided to go up to 88% overnight, when there are no trends or things we can go back and assist and help with. But that's probably an area that we are making the most progress in, or trying to put things in place, not trying, we are putting things in place to see more significant growth, but you won't see that significant, you will see growth next year, but it's not quite going to reach the state mandate mark.
They also, just to make a note, they also changed, they created the standards of what that is, and I think we should probably send something to them in an update of what it is, because those also changed along with the standards over the year. So you start the year with a plan, like when we approve courses, or y'all approve courses, and we go into the next year, we actually don't know sometimes if they won't change it, and that course now won't be counted towards that measure. And that's exactly what happened to us in some.
They actually did that, didn't they?
Oh, yes.
Because
They take away some of the
someone
courses
reported, I
that
think it
earn
was
points,
Dana or somebody.
So
like
reported
not all career and tech courses.
Oh, Fahey did.
That we started with.
Just some.
And Mr. Bowles, hopefully I'm going to answer your question, I think what you're alluding to. I won't speak about any other districts, but I will speak for EMS ISD, is that we definitely followed the exact language of allowable pathways. And you're going to see there is a reason why our numbers are lower than the others. There's a possibility that comparisons to others interpreted the allowable pathways. And you're now going to start seeing a balance because of what some other districts were doing. It's no longer allowed. And so you're now going to start seeing the balance.
There was a game played, but even the word, it shouldn't really even be CCMR anymore. It should be CC. Because military readiness is now, you have to not just be in the military, you have to go through boot camp. There's a whole process, and then you have to get a report back. It's really, really difficult, and used to it was just being admitted into an armed service. That was good enough in that report, and now there's more. Of course, that affected everybody equally, but there was just a lot of shifts and changes added to us.
That is correct.
This one is unfortunate because there's a lot of great things done in the area of career and technology, and this measure is nothing that I would use to measure a district. I would use them independently, but they took this all in and put it into a quotient, and there you go. And it's their interpretation. And that's in an environment where they try to do away with certain programs, like they've been in a fight to get rid of cosmetology for how many years, Dr. Eldridge? I mean, yeah, and it's been fought, and we've kept it, okay, 8 years. And so that's an example of something that, I'm not sure if that one's in the measure anymore, but there's been a lot of things like that we've had to look at. So I think, like Dr. Barnes said, you're going to start to seek more comparable data. And others, I think it's very, very appropriate to look at district to district because we're all taking the same test. In this case, it's nearly like a self-imposed because it has to do with what offerings you're giving and also how you interpreted some of the reports. So.
Okay, that makes more sense because I think Mr. Bose was asking. Sure. I mean, we both have the same rules, so
yes,
we should be at the same place. But if they are interpreting those rules differently, then
okay. And even what course, like say you have X number of courses and you offer Y number of courses or offerings, you could offer the right ones or not the right ones depending on what they accept. So there's a lot to that. But I'd like to, we'll send something to y'all with more details of that and changes because everything that y'all said about looking at comparable data from year to year and the STAR performance EOC, that to me is very, very clear when you look from district to district and you have all these, and this one is just not, is kind of convoluted. And
yes, sir.
Do you feel confident that we're equipping more than 55% of our graduates to be college and career ready, right?
Well,
yes, sir, because I would.
You just hit it on the dot. It's the, I compare it very similar to when people are upset because we have a certain percentage of third graders that are not reading on grade level. Who defines grade level? So the same as with CCMR. When you look at it, you're thinking, we only have 55%. My goodness, how many are going to be unemployed, when they're an adult? CCMR, as of today, is not a direct indicator of the educational or the employability of a student as an adult. There is not a correlation.
Good.
It is an accountability, and dare I say, it is a game. And one thing that we stand firm, and it is because of your backing and definitely under the leadership of Dr. Chadwell, we're not going to play an accountability game. We're going to do what's in the best interest of our students and what is going to get them employed to be successful adults.
And it's interesting, even though we're talking about college readiness versus just completion, we have completion rates, which are comparable, graduation rates, dropout rates that are really, really good and have been for years. I mean, they've been since before I came here 13 years ago. So and that's not necessarily being successful in college, that's just graduation. When we look at those 4-year rates and everything like that, I mean, that's really what happens is that when kids leave, how are they successful when they leave our doors?
Yeah, the dropout rates are great. We always pick on the negatives here. There's some positives here.
There's a lot of, there were a lot of positives.
Keep the kids in school, sure. Thank you.
Comments from the board? Okay, then at this time, the hearing is open to public comment. So please step to the podium if you wish to be heard. Okay. At this time, the public hearing on Texas Academic Performance Report for the district is closed. Please be advised that the Texas Academic Performance Report will be posted on the district website for further public review. All right, we are removing item H from the agenda at the request of the superintendent. So that brings us to item I, award contract for Wayside Middle School replacement, Mr. Lee.
Good evening, President Ring, members of the board, Dr. Chadwell. I just want to remind you that we have an updated board agenda item. It has the attached ranking worksheet associated with it. We'll review that through this recommendation. The district performed a request for qualifications for the construction of Wayside Middle School replacement using the construction manager at risk two-step procurement method. The first step received 5 qualified responses to the RFQ. For step 2, those responses were shortlisted to advance to in-person interviews The contractors interviewed were Pogue, Balfour Beatty, Ford Construction, and Still and Freeman. The review panel, consisting of district employees and representatives from VLK Architects, evaluated and ranked each contractor. The ranking tabulation is attached for your review. So what I would like to do is I'd like to take a little time to clarify something before we actually look at this ranking worksheet. Oftentimes, when we come to the board for recommendation for projects like these, we come to you with a recommendation of a contractor with a guaranteed maximum price. The CMAR method is just a little bit different. Like tonight, we're going to recommend a contractor to you, and then we're going to come back months later down the road and recommend a guaranteed maximum price. And ultimately, the advantage to this process has to do with awarding a general contractor while the project is still in design. And not only award, it to a contractor, but the right contractor, the contractor who's an expert in complex projects. And the replacement of Wayside Middle School is most certainly a complex project. So I kind of like to take you through some of the steps that we're going to go through once we award a contractor. The awarded contractor will then review the site. The biggest concern really starts with safety. They're going to do a site and traffic study, and they're going to form a logistics plan based off of all the traffic from adjacent streets, Bailey, Boswell, Old Decatur. They're going to review traffic plans from the school, from drop-off, pickup, not only at Wayside, but also at Bryson. And what they're going to do is they're going to come up with a plan that will be coordinated with the campus, the community, and really just so that they know what exactly is going on. How are the kids, the staff being divided from construction activities? What this also does too is that when they review the traffic, they can determine pathways for semi-trucks, large vehicles as they're entering the site. Do we want to come up south off of Old Decatur, select an entry point to the site that will be most advantageous to safety so that we can avoid any conflicts with student, staff, community members, and construction activities. The second piece is the school calendar. We want to make sure that when testing is going on, most likely the loudest event on the construction side is the site superintendent sipping coffee in his trailer, right? So at this point, we can provide that schedule up front, and when they create their master schedule, they can infuse that into the master schedule. There's no questions, there's no, they know when those dates are, and they build it into their schedule, and there's no coming back for any delay days. The next piece is the ability to expedite construction activities. So one thing that you're going to see from me, most likely in a few months, is I'll come back to you with an early release package, early release GMP package, most likely for demolition and then site grading. We can release these things early to allow for construction to begin prior to the completion of the drawings for the contract documents. And also with the procurement of materials. One of the things that we've been plagued with in past projects is the procurement of the electric switchgear, the main switchgear, which is needed in order to provide permanent power to the site. That has a 50 to 56 week lead time. So we can break that out, create an early GMP package for that, and get that ordered prior to a shovel ever touching the site. And then the last piece is the coordination and collaboration with a general contractor as we review contract documents, just having another set of eyes, another set of expertise in reviewing the drawings to ensure that we limit change orders, we limit RFIs, which is a request for information. This ensures that we have the cleanest set of drawings when it comes time to actually execute. And then the last piece is they'll provide preliminary estimates as we go on. And before we go to bid, it just ensures that we're going to be under budget. And it's for those reasons why we select this method. And per our interviews, these are the things that we were looking for from our contractors to communicate to us, and ultimately why we made our selection. So if you would, we'll just look at this ranking worksheet. You can see some of the criteria. It is a two-step worksheet. Step one, they submitted qualifications to us. The first piece of that is experience, years in business, construction in K-12 schools as a CMAR, North Texas market presence. The next piece is the technical competence piece, which included schedule, technology, cost control, Then the capability to perform, financial records, references from other districts, and then past performance. The project team that they were pitching for us on this project, the time and construction of that team, and the amount of K-12 projects that each construction member completed. So as you can see here, after we get past step one, we did an initial review, and then we narrowed it down to 4 contractors that we invited to step 2. And then we did an interview. And in that interview process, they basically had the opportunity to present whatever information that they wanted to for their proposal on this project. And then they submitted a price. And so we've presented to you just it's an estimate number, but what that number is comprised of is 3 things. They provide a pre-con price. So pre-construction services, we talked about those preliminary estimates. That's what that's comprised of. And that was from $15,000 to $75,000 between all proposals. The next piece is the fee piece. So what they do is they submit a fee, which they get basically a percentage off of total construction costs. So that was from 1.7% to 2.65% among the contractors. And then the last piece has to do with general conditions. So everything that it costs for a general contractor to run a site. Staffing, trailers, printers, phones, all those things, small tools that they need in order to complete a project. And so you see those estimates. We call it an estimate because it's not the actual cost that will change due to what the actual construction cost is in this project. So are there any questions about this rating schedule before you now?
You have a question. So the estimate of the fee, of which basically decided to award the bid because of the numbers that were assigned to that score.
Right.
You mentioned it's an estimate, but if it goes up or down, I guess the percentage that you gave the range of would apply to the new.
So each contractor provided a percentage.
Right.
So based off their percentage, that's how the price will, however it fluctuates, they're locked into that percentage, right?
Okay. So then they would move correspondingly?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep. That is correct.
Hunter, what are some other projects that we've used CMARs on?
Yeah, glad you asked. Hatley Elementary, Boswell Stadium improvements, Fieldhouse addition. We did Pogue again for the security updates and the addition to the maintenance warehouse. In my time here at Eagle Mountain, those are the main projects.
In Chisholm Trail High School.
Yes.
Yeah, that was the big one, Chisholm Trail.
I mean, we like to do CSP. It's just when you have unforeseen conditions, and I'm going to call it a dynamic site, not one that we have more control over in time. Eagle Mountain High School, we have a lot of time. We had a lot of lead time going to it. Wayside, we're trying to move quickly and trying to also deal with the, like we talked about earlier, previous meetings, the issues there, the watershed and other things on that side. So it's be able to be flexible, because most likely what would happen with the CSP, we would have to come back with something, and then you'd have change orders to say, this is our number, but maybe not.
I think they bid it really high, is what I think, because of all the unknowns.
Yeah.
Tearing down, there's no telling what.
Yes, they have to predict,
Be
and
on the
so
wayside.
you have a little bit more control in this area. We have to be a lot more involved. I mean, we have to be a lot more active. I'm not going to call it easier to do a CSP, but there's a lot of fixed things for us. We know what the cost is going to, what the maximum price is going to
So
be.
the architect is also equally more involved? Is that
They
fair
do,
to say?
because you're in the design process. And you get started before all your drawing, it can potentially start before everything's completed, because you're trying to front load certain things to get them done. And again, that requires a more active process. I've been a part of both in 3 districts. And I know years ago when I was part of the Northwest High School renovation, that was a CMAR project, because otherwise it would have been 2 years of design to get all this foreseen conditions. Not saying it would take that long for Wayside, but certainly longer than our lead time right now, which in an escalating construction environment could lead to higher prices, because now you're waiting to know everything, and everything you know now is more expensive. So
Was Hatley, was that more of a timing thing? 'Cause that seems pretty straightforward, right? You said Hatley. We used
We,
one,
we
right?
did, yes. It had more so to do with it being a new prototype.
Oh, new.
So a lot of bugs to work out, and so we felt like that was the best method for that project. Now, moving forward, we most likely won't continue with that method. We'll go back to CSP just because we have worked out the bugs, but just like to Dr. Chadwell's point for Wayside, there's so many unforeseen conditions that it's good to get a contractor in before the start of construction so that we can really nail those down and coordinate our best effort.
What you do have to have in a CMAR is you have to be hands-on and have constant discussions with your construction manager. You have to be engaged. Because we have to feel very confident with every recommendation for every piece versus all those things being front-loaded on the front end. And in the CSP, they've already locked it in, so at the price.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that, you know, we've been really fortunate in this district. I mean, we've had some really competent contractors awarding CSP work. And I feel like the timelines that we've had and when we awarded work, at least in my time here, has been crucial, and we have definitely gotten best value. I know that because, I mean, I used to work for a general contractor bidding on Eagle Mountain's work, so I know what fees we put in, and I know what deals this district got. But for a project like this, to me, it just makes most sense to proceed this way.
And then if the trade that we're working on under this method, if it goes up or down during this year that we're building it, 2 years that we're building it, we benefit from that? Is that safe to say, or is that not safe to say?
It's not safe to say.
Okay.
It's not. Now, any savings in the general conditions or any other things that the contractor, they have the ability to share those savings with us. But really, when they bid out that guaranteed maximum price with the subcontractor, it acts just like a CSP.
Okay.
Yeah. There's just two pools of contingency that are created in the CMAR. We have the owner's contingency. Typically in a CSP, it's just the owner's contingency. Now we have two pots. We have the owner's contingency, we have the contractor's contingency. And that contractor's contingency is for anything that and that's where that risk piece makes sense in the name, is that, you know, when the contractor bids that out, they're now at risk to provide that project within the guaranteed maximum price plus their contingency. Once they get past that contingency, they owe us that building, that project at their own dime at that point. So,
We have I know there's some city concern and things like that. Is there any kind of update on a potential start of things for Wayside?
Well, I mean, the project started. I mean, they're under design right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so we've started, but it's just like a lot of these projects, a lot of stuff happens.
Sure.
In this case, not underground, it's happening off-site.
Right.
So we're ready. I mean, our goal is December 2025.
Yeah, our plan is, you know, of course, to release demolition early. There's not, you know, we have to get a demolition permit, so that'll be put in the process as soon as this gets awarded. And as soon as we can get that back, you know, we plan on doing an early release at a time in which, once we finish, we hit the ground running with a grading permit, and then eventually, you know, the remainder of construction, the building pad, foundation, all that good stuff.
And that's all in the city of Saginaw.
Correct.
For this second, and you're dealing with Bryson, you're talking about their traffic pattern, that's the city of Fort Worth, correct?
Correct. And mainly, that's just more so for the contractor to take into consideration on our behalf, right? We just want to make sure that, you know, we're keeping a safe site on both sides of Old Decatur, primarily.
So do you have a recommendation?
Glad you asked. The recommendation is to enter into contract negotiations for the construction of Wayside Middle School replacement with the highest ranking contractor, Pogue Construction. In the event the district is unsuccessful in negotiating a contract with Pogue Construction, the board authorizes the administration to cease negotiations and to move to the next highest ranking contractor or contractors until a contract can be successfully negotiated.
So moved.
Second.
And just for the board's knowledge, we've worked with all four of these companies at some point in the district's history. Balfour Beatty used to be Charter Construction that built Chisholm Trail High School. Of course, we worked with Core and Eagle Mountain High School, and Poe Construction has built Marine Creek Middle School, which of course is the prototype to this school. They've built our last 4 elementary schools. And so we have comfort level with, I mean, these are good companies.
Right.
Obviously, the price was set them apart. And we do have a level of confidence. My understanding, unless something's changed since Friday, is that this also secures the team, which would include the superintendent that's worked on the other jobs.
Right.
And we have a confidence in Richard that when he has stated things that we've kept with that. And as y'all know, we've finished all those projects on time and at or under budget. And we're really pleased with his leadership to make things and push at certain times to get things back on schedule when we've had weather and inclement issues. But I could say also positive things to other companies too. It's just, that is our recommendation tonight.
All right, I think Blake beat you by a hair, so I think I've got a motion by Blake and a second by Marilyn. Is there any further discussion?
Can't believe she did that to me, Blake.
I was willing to give it up, but
Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, and next we have act on the purchase and installation of Promethean displays for Eagle Mountain High School. Mr. Lee.
In the summer of 2018, Promethean became the standard for classroom display monitors and were installed at all campuses district-wide. All facilities constructed since then have been provided these displays, which have become an integral tool for our teachers. Eagle Mountain High School is scheduled to receive 140 units to be installed throughout the campus. The district requested quotes from multiple purchasing cooperative vendors for the purchase and installation of the recommended Promethean display. The district received quotes from 3 vendors: Pro Computing Corporation, Global Asset, and Data Projections. Pro Computing Corporation offers the best value and is in good standing with the district. For these reasons, administration believes that it's in the best interest to recommend Pro Computing for the purchase and installation of Promethean displays at Eagle Mountain High School. These funds will be taken from the 2017 bond. The recommendation is to award Pro Computing and install Promethean displays at Eagle Mountain High in the amount of $538,590.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Steve and a second by Marilyn. Is there any discussion?
What does Global Asset do that makes them worth their bid twice as much? What is so great? Do you have any idea? They would charge twice as much? It's the same product, I assume?
Same exact product.
Kirk, we didn't hear you.
They have to purchase it from somebody else.
Okay. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. And that does conclude our action items for this evening. We'll move on to routine monthly reports. Was there any questions regarding those or comments? Okay, then let's review the 2024 board planning calendar. Dr. Chadwell.
Yes, this is on page 348 of your packet. We have the finance reports with budget amendment if needed and budget update. We'll start again getting deep into that process. Under operations report, we have the fourth quarter of 2023 quarterly demographic report, construction update. We'll then continue with our human resources reports for 24-25 campus staffing. And just a reminder there, those reports we bring to you are in some cases, we're not going to necessarily open those positions immediately. We're going to really hold closely to the enrollment. So some of those may be a little delayed, but I don't want to stop and bring those to you so you have those on your radar. We also have a pre-K report. Under action items, we have consider approving computer replacement, teacher laptops, and student device lease, and consider approving the 23-24 of a class size waiver if needed. Under the routine reports, you'll see a number of items there that would be scheduled for this time period. And under consent report, we have the approval of contract renewals for district employees, the approval of the resolution of Senate Bill 763 that you saw heard tonight, and the approval of staff development minutes waivers for 24-25, and proclamation of Celebrate Texas Public Schools Week, and approve bids and proposals as needed.
Any questions on that? Okay, that brings us to the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
A motion by Steve and a second by Marilyn. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? There are none. Motion carries 7-0. All right, that brings us to board president's announcements. I had just a couple things. I just wanted to thank everybody again on the campuses.
I
thought you said
I did hear something over here.
Go ahead. I said, I just want to thank all the campuses for the wonderful outpouring of support here tonight and the creativity. It's wonderful. I know the other board members feel that way as well. I'll let anybody say anything if they had anything in particular that they wanted to say.
I've visited a couple of my campuses and looking forward to visiting the others' campuses. So, and I appreciate all that they've done for us.
I'll second that and also look forward to visiting. I have not been able to visit this year, but I will. The bond election and a lot of other things were going on. So, but I will be, I've already made some contacts with some of mine. So I look forward. And it was the gifts, the posters, and I think all the principals being here and staff being here was very, pretty emotional. So it was very much appreciated. So we thank you.
Yeah, I was able to visit 3 of my 4 campuses. Looking forward to visiting the last one, but my first time to do this, of course. But it was cool that all the principals that I worked with got to engage students, had us working with students, meeting with students, and that was really cool. I thought it was, and the students represented their schools admirably. It was a great experience.
Okay. I also wanted to thank, a special thank you to our maintenance and all of our other staff that had to work tirelessly over our bad weather days here to make sure we were ready to open, out driving roads. I just like to give them all a round of applause for working. And I will also remind you all have a school board safety training online course that we need to take. I actually think our 2 newest board members took that as part of your orientation packet, but the rest of us, we are due to take that by this spring. So go ahead and if you have any questions, Kim can help you.
Yes, you might have.
Did you take it already?
I was with them in some of their classes, just as a support.
Oh, okay. Then you may have already completed it. Kim can double check that for you before you before you take it again.
You didn't sneak out earlier or anything?
No, I was there the whole time.
Impressive. And then last, there is an RSVP form in your folders for the elected officials community link dinner on February 28th. So if you could get that back to Kim as well. That's all I had. Dr. Chadwell?
Yes. Just to echo President Ring, thank you for acknowledging our staff. The amount of things that have to be done when you have a system go down, and we had things that happen that just happen, and then sometimes a lot of surprises, and that takes us having to fix what we like to call legacy equipment. So things that are pretty old where you have to go find replacement parts. In some cases, people were working on a few hours of sleep and working 2 or 3 days in a row over the weekend to make sure we were up. And that can happen regardless of inclement weather, and people come to school with a cool or warm building, depending on what you want. And may not realize the efforts that go into that. So thank you for making those comments. I really appreciate their service. Also, just on the calendar, we have the Tasman Winter for those that are attending that. We have middle school open house on February the 5th. We have the EMS Dance Showcase. That's always a lot of fun. It's at Chisholm Trail High School this year on February the 22nd. We also have the STEM Showcase at the Hollenstein Career and Technology Center. We'll call it CCMR night, maybe based on our conversation earlier. But it is a lot of fun. If you've not been there, it is a lot of great activity, a lot of creativity from our kids. Then we also have elementary open house on March the 7th. Lastly, I just want to say, just to echo the sentiments of everybody regarding the board. I'm always amazed. I guess when you're kind of immersed in this every day, you just don't realize that people don't have a common knowledge of what a board member is and what you do, and that you don't do it for any compensation. That's the first thing, is that, we're going to cut your pay. Well, that would be easy, right? It's zero. And the reality is that there's just a lot that goes into a meeting. You have, hundreds of pages to review. Really, really important things that lead the district, whether it's academic information. We had both sides, right? We have the financial audit. We also have an academic audit, and all the things that go into that to have a knowing understanding of how to lead and how to guide. And so I appreciate the way y'all do that. And at the same time, getting into what's also incredibly important is what's happening in our schools, what's happening in our community, and being data driven, but also steeped in real life. And so I just appreciate y'all doing that and the joy in which you do it. Just really, it's a pleasure to serve with y'all and for you. And I know that echoing a lot of people, you can see a district defined by its leadership and board leadership, and you definitely define the leadership in this community. So thank you very much.
Something that before you are on your script,
President, there is more business to come.
well, I just wanted to comment maybe. If you haven't, if you weren't there, or anybody's watching, if you weren't there, I know I saw the great video online. Thank you to Communications who put that together, the naming ceremony, because that was in another meeting of ours. Pretty phenomenal. Just cool too, and from somebody who had went to school with Ms. Weaver's, one of her sons, and, so I've known her for 30 plus years, and then had Mr. Prince as a teacher. It's pretty cool to see that sort of deal, and then to watch Ms. Weaver just hold court with everybody was pretty phenomenal as well. But just cool to you look at the things going on, and what I want to do is take that and just send it down to Austin, and go, this is stuff that's happening. It's been happening for a long time, and it's still happening. So anyway, it's just good to take those things as much as we can go over the trials and tribulations of the things like that. It's cool to see that stuff. If you didn't, take a few minutes and, check that out. Really, really pretty cool.
All right, Steve?
Madam President, seeing there's no further business to come before this board, I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. I have a motion by Steve and a second by Marilyn. All those in favor? We are adjourned.